giving us information about ELAINE. And so ELAINE, please.
Can you hear me now?
Excuse me for, yes, there you are. Okay, there you go.
Okay, let's hope this works well. So I'm going to introduce you, ELAINE. Sorry, y'all. I'm always having technical difficulties, it seems. But y'all, we're so excited to have ELAINE here today because she has so many years of experience helping folks to try to figure out what's happening and how to be preventative to prevent fraud from happening. So ELAINE has actually spent 22 years in law enforcement with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, and she retired from there in 1995 as their director. Now she's the executive vice president for the fraud division of the Oklahoma Bankers Association. Y'all, she provides training and investigative assistance for banks and fraud training to thousands of bankers and their customers like we're doing today. In 2013, ELAINE was the recipient of the State Attorney General's Brad Edwards Consumer Champion Award, and she was inducted into the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame. So that's pretty exciting. Now, ELAINE also is the recipient of the 2014 FBI Director's Community Leadership Award. As you can tell, we've got lots of great experience. We're super excited to have you here, ELAINE, and I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to you because we want to hear all the great stuff you're going to share with us today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Lisa. And thanks to First United for allowing me this opportunity to interact with people, because during the COVID times, oh, is this so great to be able to visit with folks. I feel like we're going to be to the point of in-person sessions here pretty soon, and everybody is just chomping at the bit for that. But in the meantime, just in the interest of you knowing what I'm doing up here and why my background is interesting, that is all my vinyl behind me. Incidentally, I'm at my daughter's home in Chicago. I'm helping her with a newborn. So I'm working remotely. I'm working about 3 days a week, and actually it rolls into a little more than that. But I'm literally saying I'm taking off a couple of days a week and doing this. So if you hear her dogs or her neighbors, my house is an acreage where you wouldn't hear my neighbors, and these neighbors are right behind me. So I'm in Oak Park, so you guys can know, if any of you know Chicago, you'll get a visual of all that. So I'm delighted to get the chance to do this with you today. I am on my screen right now. My picture will probably retain on there as in your gallery of people if you want to see somebody talking, or you can just look at my other screen. I'm going to click and start my my program here. Let me get it up. Take me 1 second here, and start the slideshow from the beginning. And there we go. I have a ton of information for you. I will try to be judicious with your time because I know everybody has a lot of things going on. My understanding is that we have a lot of bankers on here as well as customers. So I'm going to try to kind of gear it toward both, because all this information impacts us all, whether we even realize that or not. This is a slide I used when I got to present at the White House on behalf of our bankers. And I'd like to talk about that event because it really sent a great message on what our bankers were doing for our seniors and our customers over and above what a lot of other states are doing. Everyone realized that Oklahoma, by having a fraud division, we do not only a lot of training for people, but we get the information. I get those phone calls. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today will be stories that I hear. They're real people and they're real stories, which makes them more real to me. But I did get to help with this event. It's probably been 10 years ago now, but we had the first and only fraud division, and the pictures, that is my feed store in Blair, America. Those of you from southeastern Oklahoma probably don't even know the town, but it's a tiny little town right next to Altus. So Altus is a suburb of my hometown. That's how we say it. That's my dad's feed store, and that's where I was informed of all the first banking experiences that I had. And it was a true community bank, like your bank is, to take care of your people. And that's why they're doing this today. And I am so proud of them for making this available for you. There should be a chat box if you want to put questions in there. If I don't see it, Jennifer or Lisa will holler in if we need to answer it earlier. We'll try to address them at the end if we can. Risk assessment, I want you to have just this picture so it stays in your brain. It's a very funny picture in my brain. In this case, the probability of risk is high and the severity is serious. It's the look on that little pup's face. Here's the deal. It's not the size of the person, it's the size of the seat that's wholly inadequate. In your world, every one of us has risk every day. We wake up and the TV's like identity theft and this breach and that breach. And seriously, folks, you have to really parse through and say, which one of these is really going to impact my life? What should I prioritize? And those are the things that you need to pay attention to. And that's what we try to get across to our customers. The things that identity thieves are needing are identifying information, bank account numbers. Obviously, you do not want to share that anytime, anywhere. If you do have it written down somewhere, you need to be shredding that. Credit card account numbers. A lot of times they're not calling asking for your credit card number because there's so many breaches. They already have that out there. But what they will ask a lot of times is that 3-digit code, the CVV code on the back of your card, so that they can act like they have a card in hand when they already have your information. So we know to protect Social Security numbers and PIN numbers. Just don't write it down on your debit card in Sharpie and lose it somewhere. I've seen that happen, folks. So I'm telling you, please don't do that. How ID thieves get your information, phone and internet scams. We'll talk about those in more detail. Stealing mail is still a big thing out there. They try to get your checks in the old times. Frank Abagnale, catch me if you can. If you know Frank, he always talked about people washing the checks. And every once in a while, we'll see that happen. But nowadays, rather than washing the ink off of a check that exists, what they'll do is use that routing and account information and what your signature looks like to replicate and make 1,000 different checks instead of just having the one they can wash and present. So it's more often that they're going to steal your checks and replicate, and they want business checks more than they are looking for just individual checks, but they'll take either. The way they're getting those, they can steal it off a dock at the post office, but they also now are really busting into the blue boxes where you deposit your mail on the corner. So for that reason, if it's going to sit in the box for a while, I will go inside the post office. If I have a check or anything that has my account information, anything that I want to protect, I'm going to go into the post office to take it. Or you can obviously mail it from your work or someplace that you know it's not sitting out in a blue box overnight and somebody being able to steal it. Searching through the trash, dumpster diving is still an Olympic sport. And that brings us back to shredding, folks. A good crosscut shredder is what you need to have. The old strip shredders, I'm not even sure there are a lot of them functioning around, but it's good to get rid of the important stuff. Don't worry about shredding the stupid stuff or you will stop shredding. That's a problem. So please don't stop shredding because you have so much of it. The elephant in the room, or the big thing that we hear from our customers about a lot recently, is all the breaches. There was the huge Equifax breach. Forever ago, there was the Heartland breach. Krebs on Security. Brian Krebs happens to be a friend of mine. He writes the best security blog I know of. So if you like to look at things like what can I do better with ATMs and those types of issues, Krebs on Security is a really wonderful place to go to. It just occurred to me, I will provide these slides to the bank afterward. So Jennifer and Lisa will have this information, but I'll make a list of the links too, so that you guys can have these without having to try to write them down as I'm going through things, so you can have this stuff. On the breaches, there have been so many breaches. Our stuff is all out there. It's there, no question about it. About a year ago, I was in a class with the FBI, and they had one of their hacker types who has now turned his life around. And He was in front of the group, all techs, a lot of them law enforcement and all techie people. He was able to ask people their names and then go to the underbelly of the web, the really dark part of the internet, and pull up information for people like your social security number, your credit card numbers. Every once in a while, he'd have an account number, bank account number. So just know that these things are out there. He could do that for about 80% of the people that he tried to find it on. So what that tells you is there are so many sites and so many breaches that your information is absolutely out there, no question. So please do the things you can to be secure. When your bank offers you tools that you can use to keep your account more secure, do it. When your banker talks to you and says, hey, I think there may have been a breach or something where your information's out there, listen to them, because that all is very true, and you need to be protecting in a way. I'm going to give you some basic easy rules here in a second. A credit freeze is a good thing to do. You can do it for free right now. So I would consider doing a credit freeze if you know your information's out there, and it's true for all of us. I would also encourage you to do your My Social Security account. You do not have to be of a Medicare age, a retirement age, to make your account at ssa.gov. What that does is prevent the bad guys eventually from being able to reroute your Social Security money or make changes in your data on your Social Security. So that's one of my favorite things that I have done. It makes me feel much safer. And then we have the big three, which have always been the case. Looking at your credit card statements at least monthly. I look every other day online. Same with my bank statements. At least monthly, you have a window. You have a limited amount of time that you can notify your bank of any breach. So you need to be doing it anyway. But I check every other day just so that I can stop the bad guys before they can get a lot of my money. So those two things, as well as looking at your credit report throughout the year, that's always a handy dandy thing to do. So annualcreditreport.com is still the easy place to make that happen. And there's your phone number. What is elder financial exploitation? What everyone focuses on elder financial exploitation. And a lot of our seniors feel bad about, well, maybe I'm more gullible or maybe I'm more trusting. You know, those things are, maybe I'm not making as much sense. That is not the reason why the bad guys pick on seniors to do the fraud. They pick on seniors because that's where the money is. The huge majority of our money in this country is in the hands of what we would tag as seniors. Our seniors have protected themselves for retirement. They've tried to save and do all the right things. So that's why the bad guys will say, well, I need you to marry me. And I'm a military guy overseas and send me what turns into sometimes hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. It is just ridiculous. Elder financial exploitation is the bane of our existence. We have to protect our seniors. There's just no question about it. Why are older folks at risk? Sometimes they have the regular income and they're going to be picked on more. But sometimes the thing I really want to point out on this slide is really a COVID item right now. Sometimes our seniors are lonely and socially isolated. It's not the people that have always been able to go play dominoes with their buddies or go to their church or their social circle and do those things, which I know a lot of us have not been able to do in the recent past. But some people have those networks and they're at least going to be talking to those people and networking. It's the people that are at home and isolated that are at much higher risk. And the reason for that is it is so easy for the bad guys to call them and say, hey, you're the mom I needed or the dad I never had, and trick them into thinking they're like family to them and start sending money. So, and they may not ask those questions when they're isolated. So if you know someone that you know to be isolated, either COVID times or just generally that's the way, be that friendly ear that calls them on a daily basis and checks on them, and you will be the person they'll rely on and go to rather than the fraudster that's on the line. Being another point on the older adults being vulnerable due to grief from a loss, I cannot tell you how many times I see widows or widowers who within the first few months afterward, the bad guys are picking on them because they know that they're going to be vulnerable, and that is a particularly vulnerable time in people's world. So just think about those things and the people that we care about. It's up to all of us to take care of the folks in our world. Older adults may fear retaliation from the exploiter. We do have some folks that are taking care of people and saying, hey, I'm not going to give you your meds if you don't give me this money. We have a case right now where two daughters, one daughter became the rep payee on her mom's Social Security account. She decided just to start spending the money on things for herself and for her family, not taking care of the mom. We've got the second daughter stepping in. She's going to be the new rep payee. We're changing things, but just know that all of that can happen. You can be exploited by anyone, whether it's family or just someone else in your world. That is part of the reason I've added in a slide just to remind people to think about their powers of attorney and guardianships. I already have that in place for myself. Not that I'm a spring chicken. You heard all my times of when I retired from OBN in '95, but I have all of that in place so that my kids know this is what I want to happen, and this is where funds are going to go, and have it all set up so that you know that you're taken care of in the way that you want to be. It's the thing to do while you're still clear thinking. We had two cases the summer of 2019, both of them happened to be in Midwest City. We had one woman who got the POA for her biological mom. She was an adoptee. She found her mom and then said, hey, you can trust me. She then stole about $70,000 from her. We had a young man who stole $260,000 from his grandma with the POA, just spending money on himself. And she had $40,000 left in the world afterwards. So think about your POAs, and our bankers don't have just to honor. If somebody comes in flashing and waving around a POA, we have the ability to take the time to say, hey, this is indeed something that they did initiate, and this is a real document. If your banker says, hey, let's take some time on things, appreciate them for that, because what they're doing is taking care of us, and that's what we want to have happen. So you need to know also, this is another thing that just came up recently. We had a big issue with this. Who is on your bank account? Because that other person, if you were to pass, no matter what age you are, if you were to pass today, heaven forbid, but that person would be able to access all the money in your account. There is nothing the bank can do to change that. So you need to think about who that second name is. We just recently had a woman that had a lot of money in her accounts. She had her trusted friend who was helping her to take care of those accounts, not who she wanted her money to go to. She had children. She had a lot of people in the world that she intended for her money to go to. Did not happen because that person accessed the money and pulled it all out, and there was not a thing we could do. So everyone who's on here, please think twice about who you have on your accounts. I do have someone on there, though. If you have a child that you trust or someone that you absolutely trust, it's also good to be able to have someone that can access and help you, especially if you have any issues. Just examples of financial exploitation, not going to go into all of these. Theft or money by family members, lottery or sweepstakes scams. The Publishers Clearinghouse, folks, is rearing its ugly head. I think Ed McMahon, I blame Ed McMahon. I know he's passed, and bless his heart, rest in peace. But Ed, everybody trusted you, and they believe Publishers Clearinghouse is really going to give them the money. That's why the bad guys will use them as their backup. We have a guy in the Oklahoma City area who is just certain that he's just won $5 million, and he really, his banker is close to him. He's able to talk to him, but he didn't want anything to stand between him and his money. what we try to explain is that these bad guys who pretend to be, because we can't have thousands of people right now in Oklahoma and Texas alone that have won the Publishers Clearinghouse, just didn't happen. But because people want to believe in it, some people will send them some money. They use money mules, which we'll talk about in a minute, to get the money moved out. And it makes our customers and our people complicit in actual crimes. So those are just particularly bad crimes. People still believe they've won the lottery. We have real lotteries, obviously we do, but you know when you bought a ticket, and you know that you could check your numbers and those types of things. Investment fraud, there is a wonderful resource here in Oklahoma at the Securities Department. I'm sure that Texas has a very similar entity. I will have that on the list of websites also, but the Security Department has in Oklahoma has wonderful videos on investment fraud, because there are a lot of ways that people can make you believe that your retirement money is going to be safe when in actuality it is not. The grandparent imposter scams, I'd like to say that those have ended. They haven't. Where it used to be, ironically, Canadians do, and Jamaicans, a lot of other countries doing grandparent scams on Americans. Now we just had a bunch of arrests of Americans across the US doing the same thing to the Canadians. So, you know, I guess they wanted to get their piece of our northern neighbors. I don't know. But the grandparent scam is simply this, where they call in the middle of the night, generally, where we might be confused. Hey, it's your favorite grandson. Oh, I'm embarrassed. I had a drink and I was arrested. And don't tell mom and dad. Do not tell mom and dad. That still goes on. I know a gentleman that fell for this and wired $72,000 on this one. So don't think that it's always a tiny amount of money. And if you only have 2,000, you send that too, then it's still a king's ransom to you. But it also can be large amounts of money on these. Charity scams, we're hearing more and more about those. There are websites to check on that. And the identity theft, reverse mortgage fraud. Some reverse mortgages are an okay thing, but there are some where people defraud people just to get their money out of their home. So any of these things, you have to be cautious. Contractor fraud is one of the bigger things out there still. Who are the abusers? It can be family, it can be friends, it can be your power of attorney, financial advisors. On all of these, trust your gut feeling. That if something makes you anxious, then step back and say, I don't know why I feel bad about this, but I do. Just more people that can be the abusers. Here's a little piece of irony. One of my friends with one of the really big banks had a customer who was sending money to a guy that she said was her fiance. And she said, he's a very handsome gentleman and he's with the FBI. And my friend at the bank said, well, the heck you say, let me come out and visit. She actually went out to that customer's home and she said, why do you believe this gentleman is with the FBI? And the customer pulled up this picture that he had sent to her. This is Mulder. He's not even with the real FBI. He is an actor in the X-Files. So the things that people will believe, this was sent to her as verification. And this is a jokey thing that's on the internet. You know, on that point, I don't know that I have this in here, but I do want to say this to you. When you have a picture, say you are a customer is getting a picture from someone and it's this best looking man or woman from some other country, you can reverse Google image. It's one of my favorite tools. And I know a lot of folks, including a lot of seniors who are doing this now. So folks, if you had something like this picture, you could put it in and reverse Google image and ask it to search for this picture. If you can't do that, if you aren't tech enough to, or you don't feel confident doing it, get your grandkids to do it for you, your kids, get somebody to help you reverse Google image, because you can find a wealth of information and you'll find that a lot of the scammers are on 15 different sites and you see them all kinds of places. So That is a great thing, a great tool to protect yourself. Who can help? Adult Protective Services, still the best in the West. I just adore these people. They really do work hard. Even during COVID times, they have worked long, hard hours just to keep our people safe. They can assess things like lack of executive function, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. Sometimes it's the police. If you have somebody who's really tracking well, then maybe it's the police department to dissuade them and say, no, this isn't real. But if it's someone who seems to be confused and fall for things again and again, Adult Protective Services can help to assess that. People socially engineer us. That's how they get in our brains. This is something I want everybody to understand. I had a co-worker who was on Match.com, which makes the hair go up on the back of my neck. But she had this guy, she's like, I'm in love with him. He's a silver-haired gentleman I want. But he's out of the country. And I said, red flag. And she said, he's taking care of his son in the hospital. And I said, red flag. And she said, do you want to look at it? And so I looked at what he sent to her. Hi, I'm a gentleman from Oklahoma, Tulsa. Folks, red flag. That is absolutely not how we're going to say it if we're from Oklahoma, Tulsa. But the smart woman, she ignored that fact because she's looking at the picture, and everything else he was saying were the words she wanted to hear. So just know people can socially engineer us. They can work our brains. That's what that's all about. Different ways that they can do it. Not going to go through all of these, but just know we are the weakest link. We can make our computers be all kinds of geared up and have firewalls and do all kinds of protective things, but we're the weakest link if they can get in our brain. Now, if I can make this run, and I think that I can, I'm going to put this on. If it doesn't work or the audio doesn't come, let me know immediately, guys. And if you'll kind of wave at me, Jennifer, because I can see you on my screen. Well, it's not wanting to do it. Let's try this one more time. Sometimes I overclick.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation. And basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a layer attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. Log into our account for uses information. And I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying. And, can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
Gmail.com.
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either. So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now. Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her set up. All right. Thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Okay, folks. I forgot to say there's a bad word in there. Get over it. I meant to say that, but it's not the worst word you ever heard, right? And it's worth hearing that too. I mean, that is heartfelt. I'm just saying, when he realizes that he was really got. That's a real young man who he is in the hacker community, but he went to DEF CON, which is a hacker convention, and let them get into his information. What that tells you is someone who is very talented with their data or with their safety can still be easily hacked. Was the woman or man, we don't know who was on the other end of the line, very well trained and professional? Probably so. That I have known folks that have had tons of training, but they're trying to do customer service and they're trying to take care of people, and they just let things slip through. They use certain things in that did push the buttons. The sound of the baby crying. We've all had that. I have recently had the baby crying. We got a teething one here. When that happens, we all want to help. So it created urgency, it created credibility, she was just a person. It personified them to the person at the other end, and they wanted to help. Those are the kinds of things that can actually get us. And just know it can be that simple. They are now using that same kind of information to get into the phone systems to switch out SIM cards. I've got a slide on this, but I'm just going to add this in while this actually was the topic. They can call in if you don't have a double authentication on your cell phone. They can call and talk the people into switching the SIM to another phone that they have. At that time, your phone becomes a brick. It becomes unusable. That's one big clue. And every double authentication that comes in, when you get a text to verify something, think about it. It goes to the bad guys when they've done a SIM swap on you. So do all the authentication you can. Have your phone system as locked down as you can, because that is a really great thing to do. On the social engineering, the ways that people can get us tipped over, they can get us greedy, and that the lottery scams, the Publishers Clearinghouse, all those things we're talking about. The greed can tip people over. Emotions, if the grandparent scam we talked about is an emotional issue. Also romance scams. Oh my goodness. I still think romance scams are up there as the number one way that people are moving people and getting them to send the money, because when your heart's involved, really hard for you to break away from it. We had a woman that actually auctioned off her home. The only way we knew about what was going on was she went into her banker. She had a community banker that she knew, and she said, how do I convert this money? And it was the proceeds from her home, which was significant, to Bitcoin. And the banker said, well, why are you doing this? I let your banker ask those politely nosy questions. When the banker said, why are you doing it? She said, well, I need to send it to my fiance so that we can get things started. And then we knew we had a problem on our hands. We got her daughter involved, and we're able to get things going to protect her. But the romance scams, I know people who have sent, one man was out 1.5 million. I can tell you that. It's just amazing the folks that end up falling for these. And we're going to talk about the reasons for that here in a second. Fear is the one of the other ways they can get us across, and that is where they say we're with the IRS and we're going to come or drag your behind to the cold hard jail cell. Typically, how they say it. Nowadays, they have switched over to Social Security, because I think one of the reasons is they know it is hard for us, any of us, to get a call through to Social Security. Lucky for us as bankers, we do have a wonderful contact now at Social Security. So if you had somebody scamming you and saying there was Social Security, let us know, and we'll get through to them so we can prove it to you. But Social Security will not call and say someone's using your number somewhere. They did illegal stuff. You have to go to jail or send us money. No, we do not have to do that. Now, on that note, when I talked about the greed, I have a friend, he's a phone friend, Literally, I talk to him every other week. He's from Southeast Oklahoma. He is as dear as he can be. He falls for scams all the time. I can talk him out of it and say, no, this is not real. Publishers Clearinghouse, lottery scam, whatever. It's not real. Don't fall for it. 2 weeks later, he'll call me, but this time, this thing is real. Here's what the thing is. We all have financial capacity. That's our ability to manage and protect our assets. There is a function that's a part of that called executive function. I borrowed this from one of my buddies at DHS. That is the ability to make a plan and carry it out. The frontal lobe of the brain, which is the red part you see at the front, they used to do frontal lobotomies, and that didn't go well for people. But when your frontal lobe alters, as it can with some people as we age, some people will get dementia. We know what that is. We know how to address it. Some people will get Alzheimer's. We can diagnose that. We know how to deal with it. Some people will just lack executive function, and how this presents to you and anyone in your world you want to take care of. It looks like someone that falls for things, just like my phone buddy Ed. He falls for it again and again and again. When you can't pull someone back and they just refuse to believe that they're being scammed, the people you see on Dr. Phil, I not my favorite show, but he does some really great romance scam things. You'll see women saying, if he called me today and said he loved me, I'd still send him some more money. That is what we have out there, folks. That is what we're contending with. That is lack of executive function. Once someone lacks that, you will not pull them back. You will not be able to change things. They fall for things like the lottery. I had this in there also to remind me to mention that not only will they have people load up cards, a really smart friend of mine had been, it was actually a collection of 2 scams. The first being the Microsoft scam or Apple scam, where they say, your computer's been infected, only we can fix it. He let them into his computer, and while they were, quote, fixing it, which they were not, they were putting viruses on there, they looked at all his banking information. Then they went to his bank account and tried to move out money. And they additionally, third thing, told him to go to a nearby grocery store, buy reloadable gift cards, and call them with the numbers. That's 3 independent, separate scams they were perfecting on this one very smart person. By the time I talked to him, he was headed to the grocery store to go buy the gift cards because the people fixing his computer, quote, were needing them. We got him backed off. And I say that to remind you, very smart people can get to a point in their world where they're just not tracking in the way that they need to be. So sometimes we need to intervene and help people, or at some point we may need the help. They're also using another way that they're having even our seniors send out money now is through Bitcoin. I did not know that there are Bitcoin ATMs. Those exist. And so people can demand that our customers or that you send money to through a Bitcoin ATM. The tech support scams, that's exactly the scam that my friend was enduring, where Microsoft was saying, we're in your computer. And don't think that Apple makes you immune, because I have 2 different friends that have had that happen on their Apple computers. That happens also now. So if someone says they're going to help you fix your computer, don't do it. I love this picture of the grandpa with what looks like his granddaughter, because she's helping him to figure out the stuff on the computer. If you are of an age where you don't feel comfortable dealing with people saying there's a virus on your computer, they've scared you, they've done all those social engineering things, get your grandkids to help you. I've already talked about SIM swapping, which is where they change your information to the SIM card on another card and makes your phone unusable. Another thing that they can do when they do the SIM swapping, because they can get into, at that point, your banking information, we have also seen them set up Zelle accounts or Cash App or those kinds of apps on your account. And I just want to remind you too, on the fraud front, folks, when you're using things like Zelle or Cash App or ways to move money from point A to point B, be absolutely certain you know where it's going, what it's going for, and that you're putting in correct numbers. Because I just had a banker last week. I had to do some research on Zelle to see if she had a fraud. They told her that they were sending her something to do with birds. I don't even remember what the story was. I think they were buying some rare birds, but it says on the Zelle app, no, we are not going to do anything if you've been defrauded. So just don't count on someone to be there to back you up on those types of things. Phishing, if someone sends you a link, don't click crazy links. That's if you don't recognize it and something doesn't make sense, just don't click, because that's how they can get viruses on your computer. The one that resonates with me is Netflix. You know, if I'm binging something on Netflix, I don't want to lose it. But what I'm not going to do is on an email from a source that I don't know, click restart membership. I'm not going to click anything, and that because that could cause me to get a virus. I'll get hold of Netflix on my own and make things happen. Just different ways. Don't click the link. Don't click on attachments if you don't know them. Your passwords, password hygiene. They don't let anyone else use it. Change it every 6 months at least. But here's the deal. That is more particular. The changing is really important for your bank password. And here's the thing on your bank password. You don't have to worry about changing it as often if you have not used it anywhere else. I do not use any variation of my banking or investment passwords on any other sites. That way, if Netflix is breached or Facebook, which just recently was, if there's any place breached that I know my information's on, they do not have my banking password. So make that something that is just your rare jewel, your thing that you don't use anywhere else. That's one of the most important things about passwords. There are wonderful password managers that you can use. LastPass is one that the FBI has recommended in the past. One of my favorite passwords still, a lady was being audited in her company. Her password was Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, Huey, Louie, Dewey, Donald, Goofy, Sacramento. They said, why so long? She said, hello, you said it had to be 8 characters and include at least 1 capital. Sacramento is funny right there. But here's the deal. That is an excellent password because every letter is 26 combinations, 26 permutations. So it's 26 times 26. So you calculate that out. That's a wonderful password. So that reminds me to say, if you can go out with passphrases, something that allows you a long thing, well, then go out with passphrases. Make it longer. Social media can be a blessing and a curse. I just want to remind you, Facebook, there are links where you can get into trouble. Here's a guy that asked to be LinkedIn. I trust LinkedIn pretty much. I believe in it as a very strong professional community. I have tons of friends on there. But Mukhtar Manyev said he would like to be my friend. And when I look, he says he's the accounting assistant at Oklahoma Bankers Association, which is where I work. I know our accountants, and Mukhtar is not one of them. So I obviously did not click. I told everybody in our office to not. There's only like 12 of us, come on. But one of our banker friends who did not know that he was not one of our people clicked on it and let him into her network. And that is how you could have someone accidentally looking like they're credible on someplace like LinkedIn. If someone wants to be your LinkedIn friend or your Facebook friend for sure, check and be sure it's really them. They'll make a duplicate of your friends and neighbors. And if you get a second request and you think, well, they're already my friend, they probably are. Don't click on it. Look at that profile and you'll see no pictures or very few pictures, or maybe if it's a guy, you'll see like a million women's pictures who look like they're trying to hit on them. So there are things you can do to check things out. This guy wanted to be my Facebook friend. No, he had no pictures, nothing to really recommend him. We've had so many breaches. I mentioned everything has been breached. Our friend Brian Krebs found one of the first ATM or one of the first credit card breaches, being the Target breach. We do still have those issues. And I know a lot of people are very concerned. you're more likely to have your credit card skimmed at a gas pump. They still don't have they don't have to be chip enabled. I think they've pushed it off till maybe 2022 now. It's sometime way distant in the future that they have to do it. So gas pumps are ripe for skimmers on them. We still see a lot of that. Our friends at FBI and Secret Service have continued to take those off for us. So no, that is an issue. But here's the easy thing for you to do at an ATM, where a lot of people are jiggling or trying to figure out if there might be a skimmer on there. And the skimmers now are deep insert skimmers. They're inside. It's almost impossible for you to see it. They'll have a pinhole camera on there, which will be so tiny that it's really hard for even our bankers who know their ATMs to see it. Here's the thing: if you put your hand over the keypad when you're going to, I'm not, you see my hand in the video there, but if you put your hand literally where it obstructs that camera, wherever it's put, it keeps them from getting your PIN number. So that is an easy fraud fix that you can do. Ransomware is where they send you something saying your computer's been locked, you have to send us money. At the home front, the easy way, on businesses, you just want to have a good backup. That's the easy answer. At home, that is still your answer. If you have 5,000 pictures of your grandkids and you don't want to lose them, have it backed up on a USB, a thumb drive, or have it backed up in the cloud or somewhere that the bad guys can't encrypt your computer and then demand that you pay them a ransom. Money mules, I want everyone to understand, even if, where we used to have the bad checks and we'd warn people, oh, don't rely on this check. Well, now a lot of times they will wire money into your account. It will be stolen from someone else. It can be a product of fraudulent wires where they've stolen it from a company, or they've had someone else who's being defrauded send money into your account. So just because you have a wire in real actual money sitting in your account does not mean you're not being defrauded. What they do is use you as a money mule. One of the better ways to explain it, on our recent unemployment fraud, we discovered it early. Our banks got back a ton of money to other states that were supposed unemployment payments for folks in other states. What they did was redirect it from someone that they used their name, say in the state of Washington. They would deposit it here and they would have a money mule in place. There's a whole huge network of these that already exist, where they have somebody conned into believing, oh, I live in this other country and I can't use their banking system. Or even one was told, I'm in the state of Washington, our banks are closed because of the pandemic. No, there were no banks anywhere totally closed. We had a lot of lobbies that were closed to protect everyone, but you could still do business with these people. It wasn't that the bank was closed to you being able to do it. What they do, send the money to an account here and say, oh, I'm in love with you and you have to pull that money out for me. So our person, our customer would come in, they'd be in an all-fired hurry. That's how you can tell when you're being used. One way to tell you're being used as a money mule, you haven't ever met the person in person. You don't really know who they are. Circumstances, talk to people. If you will talk to someone, they can make you understand what a money mule looks like. The FBI has a whole unit just to work on money mules. So just know it is rampant, and we see that all the time. We had an issue in Massachusetts. We had a lady here who started on Words with Friends. She was told this guy was in love with her, and she was so in love with him that she kind of told her husband she didn't want him anymore. It was really a dicey, awful thing to be going through, because her husband loved her and just knew she was having some kind of issues. He was really patient with her. We found the person that she was sending the money to. It was actually a woman just outside of Boston. I called this woman and I said, hey, you're stealing money from this person here in Oklahoma. You may or may not know it, but you're being used as a money mule, as a conduit to get the money out of the country for the guy that she thought loved her. She had done that for people all across the US as well as in other countries. So this one woman outside of Boston was sending hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe in the millions, to this guy that was using her as a money mule. So just know, just because you have money wired in your account does not mean that it is real money and that somebody's not being hurt at the other end of it. On the point of the unemployment fraud, here's another thing, just FYI, some people that have had their names used, and I have a ton of friends that their names were used to file unemployment, it went to other states. You could have repercussions. If you get something from the IRS that you received the money and you didn't, talk to your CPAs, talk to your folks at your bank. Just there are people that can help you work through it, but we're seeing a lot of that out there right now. Again, the Money Mule Initiative, there's a wonderful piece on the internet that is Don't Be a Mule Initiative, which explains the mules. And it's great to use if you know somebody that's being used as a money mule. Just tips, IRS won't call you saying they're going to arrest you or asking you for money. Craigslist and eBay, if you're on those types of sites, just beware. I saved a young man, he had sent $17,000 for a bobcat that did not exist because he talked to his banker immediately when I was able to get hold of the bank in the northeast part of the US, and we were able to get his money held. I say that to remind you of this: the faster we know, talk to your banker, trust your banker, and get them to help you. And we can sometimes even recover money once you think that it might be gone on these deals. There's still counterfeit cashier's checks. So don't, just because it's a check, even if it looks like it's from a company, let your bank help you check it out. Same with the corporate checks. There are counterfeit bills. We've seen tons of good ones out there. They can now do a watermark. I used to say, look for the watermark. They can do that. So if you question it, take it to your bank and let them help you out to verify on the money. Our bankers are the best in the West for taking care of our seniors, as the White House event that I alluded to earlier. Just a quick example, I had a man that finally, he kept believing and believing. He thought he was getting a new wife from Ghana. This is the picture he got from her. I've been told from people that are from that country that this is a picture of a famous actress or someone well-known in that country. She sent him a marriage certificate. He sent her $25,000. He just wanted to believe, folks. So just know there's just so much of that out there. Also know too, everyone in Oklahoma is a mandatory reporter of financial exploitation. So we're all required to tell somebody, here are your tools, I'm going to do this, and then turn it back to the banks. They can tell you one of their tools. There's your Oklahoma securities info. Again, I'll get all this in a listing to the bank so that they can get this out to you if you want a list of this. FTC has wonderful information. I will list the action steps in it. Also, ABA, which is the American Bankers Association, has a wonderful website on seniors, and you can pull that down. It's not behind any paywall. There are just lots of ways for you to check on things. There's a site for charity fraud, as I mentioned, and identity theft. And this is one of the most important. Managing someone else's money guides are so wonderful. If you're helping someone that you had not helped or done that with in the past, it's just a wonderful thing to have out there. Now, I'm going to stop sharing so that the banker folks, I'm delighted you spent this time with us today, and I'm going to give a few minutes back to the bank if you guys have any questions that they want to have answered, or just to make comments.
Well, I want to thank you, Elaine, so much. And you mentioned that about some tools that people can use. And if you're a customer here at the bank, we do have what's called secure checking, and it has ID Protect in it. And it will help you to protect your identity. And it'll help if you have a cell phone even, that it has protection on that, because we keep so much information on our cell phones now that if that were taken or whatever, it helps you to be protecting your cell phone. It also monitors your credit file. And if you do happen to have ID theft happen, and there is restoration for that. And if you'd like some more information about that, check with your community bank, and they can help you with more details. It's secure checking with ID Protect in it. Lots of wonderful features. I just kind of skimmed over the top of it. But we do thank you, Elaine, and we want to take some time for questions. If people have something, they can either come off of mute and ask you themselves, or they can type it in the chat box, whichever way. So any questions out there, anyone?
Everyone's afraid to ask questions because they're afraid I'll go on and some more.
I tell you what, I've heard you speak several times, and every time I'm like, oh gosh, so good. There's so much great information out there. We all have parents and grandparents that I know I can say these things have happened to my mom more than once. And she's pretty tech savvy. So anybody have any questions out there? Oh, someone asked, can people still register for the 4 p.m. webinar? Yes, definitely. So you all may have some friends or family members you want to get on the 4 o'clock today too, the happy hour. We won't be drinking anything, but still going to have fun learning about fraud. Well, does anybody else have anything they'd like to share or any information that you weren't clear about? Elaine, I guess you did such a great job that, gosh, you covered it all. And in an hour, that's amazing. Well, if you do still have questions that you'd like to reach out to Elaine, she did provide her email. Would you like to give us that again, Elaine?
Sure, it's
Your
just
email?
ELAINE. I have to spell it. My kids say it's such an old name. I have to spell it ELAINE at oba.com, just for Oklahoma Bankers Association. We keep it simple.
Okay. Oh, good. Jennifer put it in there so everybody would have it. And as soon as we can get the information posted, we will. Well, I'm assuming we would put it on our Spend Life Wisely website, possibly, Jennifer. So we will have that information of your slides and everything. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And everybody, we just really thank you for being here, and I hope that this blesses you. I know it does me every time I hear it. I know Jennifer's the same way. And Elaine, you're fabulous. Thank you so much. And everybody, we appreciate you being here. Let us know if we can help you in any way. And trust your bankers. If you have questions, go to them for help. If you have any kind of fraud, we're here to help. We get trained on this stuff. So y'all, thank you so much. You be blessed and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.